Hello everyone, this is Denise at Something Beautiful Handcrafts, and this is a combination of Maker's Monday and Pattern Spotlight. I was going through some pictures with my mom, and she saw the Capitan Hat that I did quite a few years ago. You can find the pattern on Ravelry. And she wanted it, and I thought I had the hat still in storage, but I didn't, so I figured I'd go ahead and make a new one for her. Now this right here is an alpaca baby doll South Down blend. The pattern itself calls for 100% alpaca, but I figured I'll go ahead and use this. Now, I don't remember if I mentioned this before, but there was two halves of this. There was about 8 ounces or so, and I spun the other 4 ounces already. I didn't really enjoy it. Baby doll South Down tends to be short and very springy, and if it's not processed correctly, it gets a lot of neps. And as I recall, I think this particular fiber did have a lot of neps in it, and it was really short. In this case, I'm going to spin it bulky, so I don't really need a super smooth prep. The hat only takes 100 and so odd yards. I've got 4 ounces. That's more than enough to get a nice bulky yarn from this. And since it comes up a lot about being able to spin other than thin yarns, I'm going to show you my process on how I spin bulky yarns. And like I said, this is only going to be a 2-ply yarn. So I'm not going to get my bulky by adding multiple plies. And for the most part, everything is just going to be everywhere for a while. I'm still like in the middle of a bunch of different projects, and so I have this stuff, so just pretend you don't see it. Maybe at some point I'll cover it up. Okay, so anyway, I'm getting ready to spin the alpaca blend. So looking at it in the roving, and what I'm going to do is tear myself off a stretch of roving, and I'm going to split it. Okay, it doesn't actually matter to me at this stage how thick this is, as long as it's not really thick. Okay, so here I go again. I'm saying this again, and I think I'm going to keep saying this. And I also think I might actually do a mini class on this. So we'll see. I might set it up on Teachable and do a class. Okay, so you can spin whatever thickness of yarn that your heart desires. It is not true, or it does not have to be true, that once you spin for a while, you will have a hard time making those thick yarns again. That does not need to be true. Spinning is a craft, a skill like any other skill. It's kind of like telling a kid that enjoy those scribble, scrabble, thick, abstract drawing lines that you make while you're a child. Because once you become an older artist, you'll never be able to draw that scribble, scrabbly, abstract way again. That's kind of silly. Part of these crafts and skills is being able to make them the way that you want them. It works the same way with spinning. You manipulate the fiber to take the form that you would like, whether it's thin yarn or thick yarn, whether it is smooth yarn or lumpy yarn, whether it is even yarn or thick and thin. You manipulate the fiber to have those characteristics. How do you change the weight or thickness of yarn? You simply add more fiber into the drafting zone. More fiber in the drafting zone means that it's going to be a thicker yarn. Base your twist on the thickness of yarn. Okay, so here I am. If you need help remembering the thickness of yarn. If you cannot remember off the top of your head, which is perfectly fine, there are two different ways that I go about this. I use a leader that is half the thickness of the yarn I would like. So if I'm making bulky yarn, then I might use something that is 2 DKs or 2 worsted. It kind of depends on how much I expect this fiber to compress. Okay, that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to use the spinner's control card. So I'm looking at the spinner's control card. I want my single to be approximately somewhere between DK and worsted weight. I'm going to make my single what I would like it to be, considering that I am spinning Alpaca and the, what is that? I can't remember. It's definitely an Alpaca wool blend. And so I'm spinning that. Oh, the Southdown, yes. I kind of know what Southdown is going to plump up into. I know exactly what Alpaca, how that's going to work out. So I'm taking that into consideration. And then I would test it with my spinner's control card. I like that thickness right there. Then I would let it double back onto itself. Let me set that exactly where I want it. Okay. I'm going to let it double back on itself, and I'm going to judge for myself if this is going to be a yarn that I would like to consider bulky. Okay, I would like to put a little more into that for me to consider it bulky. Okay. And what I'm doing is I am judging in my head with my eyes how much fiber needs to be in that drafting zone, what that yarn needs to look like in order to be bulky. And that means I need to pay attention. Okay, so here is my bulky yarn. That is some seriously bulky yarn. I'm liking that. Okay. Which means I'm not going to watch anything on TV that I haven't already seen, because I want to make sure that this turns out the way I want. It does not need to be 100% the entire way. Applying covers a multitude of sins, but I want to get it as bulky as I possibly can. For me anyway, I would like to have it as even as I possibly can, all the way. Because I know the hat that I'm making, and I don't want a bunch of thick and thin spaces. It really does help to know how much twist I need to put in this fiber. Okay, I got a kink right here. I want to work out the kinks, as they say. And that is because my uptake is not as strong as it needs to be for the speed that I'm feeding the fiber and treadling. That's too much now. This just takes a little bit of thought, and eventually I won't have to think about it much. It's an eye memory. It is a muscle memory. I can feel it. I don't necessarily have to watch it, as long as I'm keeping my rhythm correct. This fiber is a little short. I mentioned that my last time I spun the other half of this, so I'm gonna have to inch inch if I want to get what I want from this. Okay. And that is basically the strategy that I use for all of my spinning.